Chapter 88 Golden Light Barrier. Monk Golden Light had a prideful expression on his face as he stood in the middle of the arena with the members of the Feral Wolf gang standing behind him. Before he emerged, he had already guaranteed Jia Tianlong that he alone would be sufficient to face all the challengers from the Seven Mysteries sect. But of course, the price for his services would have to be adjusted accordingly from the previously agreed amount of 5,000 taels of gold to 8,000 taels of gold. The moment when Monk Golden Light thought about the rewards he would be receiving after the battle, a fiery heat rose in his heart. He stared disdainfully at the crowd, straining himself to hold back from slaughtering all the members of the Seven Mysteries sect. Instead of being with Li Feiyu, Han Li stood at the other side of the crowd. Since Li Feiyu and Zhang Shuer were standing together, whispering sweet words of affection to each other, Han Li naturally would not be so rude as to intrude into the personal world of the two lovebirds. Seriously, what is he thinking about when he is with his young lover? To think that they could still talk about their emotions and love right now when we are about to fight for the sect's survival. Han Li felt a sour taste in his mouth. After he came back to his senses, Han Li, like the rest of the sect members, stared curiously at the dwarf standing in the arena. The Feral Wolf gang's participants all hiding in the back. This is too incredible. They actually allowed such a dirty-looking dwarf to begin the fight. Could it be that the dwarf has some sort of strange and profound martial technique? Han Li blinked his eyes as he pondered in his heart. Sect leader Wang's thoughts flowed down the same path as Han Li's. Instead of rashly allowing his sect members to swamp the arena, he selected a protector wielding a saber to test the waters. It seemed like he intended to scout out his opponent first before making a decision so that there wouldn't be any accidental casualties. Although the battle format was supposed to be a battle royal, if one side only sent out a single man, it would unquestionably become a one-on-one fight. As sect leader Wang thought about this, he decided to act as such. When Monk Golden Light saw only a single man approaching him, he roughly knew in his heart what his opponent was thinking. Hee. The sound of a strange laughter emerged from his throat. His voice was capable of breaking apart drums, causing those who heard it to tremble uncontrollably. The protector that Wang Juchu sent out was a strong warrior more than 30 years old with an extremely valiant appearance. His hands, wielding the saber, were tightly clustered with visible green veins. One look was sufficient enough for one to know that he was extremely proficient with the saber. Even after hearing Monk Golden Light's strange laughter, his heart remained unshaken, which proved that he had experienced countless battles. As Monk Golden Light saw the strong warrior approaching him, he stopped his weird laughter and nonchalantly took out a piece of yellow paper from inside his robes. The yellow paper was inscribed with words and patterns that glowed with a golden light, and Han Li could tell with a single glance that this item was extremely valuable. The dwarf ignored the approaching warrior. Instead of moving forward, he held the yellow paper in one hand and started chanting an incantation. Although the strong warrior from the Seven Mysteries sect was unsure of what mad plot his opponent was hatching, his fighting experience was incomparably vast, and he understood that it would be best to finish off the dwarf before he completed the incantation, in case the battle became disadvantageous for him. As a result, he didn't even pause to think before his body vigorously leapt into the air, drawing close to the body of Monk Golden Light with a few steps. He raised the steel saber in his hand, and with a glint of cold light, he struck against the head of his opponent. The strike was swift, ferocious, and heavy, filled with all of his strength. As soon as his eyes witnessed the edge of the saber landing on Monk Golden Light's head, the incantation had already been completed. Before the steel saber could come into contact with his body, Monk Golden Light held the piece of yellow paper against his body. Abruptly, a piercing ray of golden light flashed, emanating from the hand that held the yellow paper. This extremely golden piercing ray of light blinded the strong warrior, but he did not have the slightest hint of panic, continuing to swing his steel saber downwards. Dang! The sound of metal clashing resounded throughout the entire arena. The strong warrior felt a wave of heat from web of skin between his thumb and index finger as the saber he was wielding almost flew out of his hands, causing him to be shocked. Although both his eyes had not managed to see clearly, he knew that the situation was perilous. He tiptoed as he backtracked a distance of several jong before pausing. Brandishing his saber, he maintained his position. At this moment, he could hear the crowd in the arena letting out gasps of shock and astonishment. The strong warrior began to get worried after hearing the crowd's reaction. He desperately wanted to know what had happened and why his clash with the dwarf was so bizarre. Fortunately, his eyes had recovered his vision, and he hurriedly shifted his gaze forward, only to see the dwarf standing motionlessly several jong ahead of him. His entire body seemed to emit an aura of golden light an inch wide around him. This golden light was akin to a thick armor, enveloping the dwarf and giving him a level of protection that was impervious to even the wind and rain. The protector's saber attack had struck the barrier of the golden light and did not manage to even wound the dwarf's body. The protector did not understand the origin of the golden light that was as tough as steel and iron. It had actually made his saber attack ineffective. Although the protector had vast amounts of experience, this was the first time he had seen such an incredible thing, causing him to be stunned. Wielding the steel saber, he was worried, not knowing whether he should advance or retreat. Not only was the protector stunned, the spectators in the crowd were astonished as well. Within Jianghu, the number of individuals who knew immortal cultivators were extremely sparse, especially within such a remote location like state of Yue. As such, the golden light manifested by the yellow paper was extremely mysterious and unfathomable to the members of the Seven Mystery Sect. Jia Tianlong felt joy in his heart as he witnessed those from the Seven Mystery Sect looking at each other with dismay. Standing at the back of the crowd was Han Li, who was even more astonished than the others. Han Li knew that on this mountain peak, there was no one other than the dwarf who understood how to use magic techniques. It was obvious to him that the dwarf used an incantation similar to that of Soul Lock Talisman. However, Han Li felt that this technique was even more powerful than the Soul Lock Talisman. When no one was watching, Han Li quickly activated Heaven's Eye technique by reciting its incantations. Having activated it, he hurriedly turned his gaze in the dwarf's direction. He saw that beneath the golden aura, there was a flickering white light on the dwarf's body. When compared to the golden aura, this white light was too faint. If one was not looking for it, he or she would have most likely not been able to notice its existence. This dwarf was actually an immortal cultivator whose magic power was much lower than Han Li's. This caused Han Li to be delighted and anguished at the same time. He was delighted because, as a beginner, his magic power was richer when compared to the dwarf's, which signified that the dwarf had merely dabbled in immortal cultivation. Han Li also felt anguished because he did not know whether or not the dwarf knew any other magic techniques of which he was not aware. As such, he was not sure if he would be able to handle the dwarf.